Awesome session with my good friend Jimmy. What's going on today, Jimmy?
Not much, Juan. How are you?
I'm doing well, man.
You
I'm
made
doing
it. You're,
well.
you're still alive after last week.
Texas did not officially freeze solid. We got close, but we didn't
Okay.
freeze all the way solid.
I'm glad. I'm glad. We had Kelsey down there as she was trying to get to the Channel Pro event, and it was like we weren't sure if she was going to make it, and she only had a
I know.
couple miles to go.
I know. I texted her. I was like, "Hey, are you actually gonna make it? Because I know you're fairly close." She's like, "I actually am gonna try." There was no chance I was gonna make it. I felt bad though because there was friends like Matt and Rob and others that were on planes, and they were like, "I don't know if I'm gonna make it from the airport." I was like, "You might, but I probably won't because I'm a little south."
But
They're
everything's
like,
okay. Did you lose power at all, or were you were
no,
you
we
good to
didn't.
go?
I was productive. A bunch of my friends are like, "Hey, so are you working?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm working." Sure, I am. That's the beauty of remote work.
Yeah,
So I no power loss this time.
that's good. That's good. All right, so we're talking AI today, right?
We are talking about the impact of AI on the threat landscape. And I think that it's interesting. I wrote something about this for CompTIA back in like 2016, I think it was, and it was really the impacts of AI on the human race. And I was really looking at like the fifth industrial revolution and really where AI
Mhm.
was going. And it's really interesting to see all the changes that have happened and taken place, even in this short period of time. I mean, obviously with chat gpt and everything kind of becoming mainstream, it's interesting to see all of the opportunities. And I was talking with crn the other day about some of the positives and negatives of ai, and I really think that it was just really an opportunity for us to have a conversation around how's this really changed the threat landscape. I mean, what are you seeing out there, Jimmy? I mean, I see a lot. Again, I have a lot of opinions on this, so I think this is gonna be really fun to talk about, but what are your thoughts, brother?
I mean, doom and gloom, right? I don't know. I mean, the threat landscape has continued to get worse
Yeah.
every year, year after year, and will continue to do so. I've always said that. You have a shortage of people who can help with cybersecurity
Mhm.
problems. You're never going to have enough people with enough experience because we're always going to be 5, 10 years behind. And
Yeah.
then you have an ever increasing attack vector, right? We have more and more information to protect from. And AI is very, 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 very good at working with lots of information and big data sets. So when you look at that, and they're also very good at augmenting people too. So it's a good
I
tool on the
agree.
cybersecurity side, but from an attack standpoint, I think these tools are going to be mainstream. Really, I mean, they are mainstream now. I guess ChatGPT kind of changed that for us.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things too, for those of you guys that are joining us, we're going to open up the chat. So if you guys got thoughts around some of the things that you're seeing around AI and some of the threat opportunities in the landscape and the way it's changing, throw your comments in here. We have the chat. We want to make it live. So, you guys can be commenting on that as well. But, and if there's no chats, do me a favor, Britta. We'll wait until everyone starts commenting. But, the big thing, and to your point, I think about how it's changed the threat landscape. I think it's really important for us to understand it's moving faster than we can, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're feeding it information, and now computers can do things so much more quickly than we can. Obviously, when you think about what we can do as humans, we are fascinatingly fast in regards to brain power, but computers now have the ability to ingest massive amounts of data where
Yeah.
we can't as humans, right? So I think that that's one of the advantages that we're seeing here. And to your point, there's a lot of tools that are out there that I've been talking about this for a while. Is at what point do we have to have self-aware autonomous networks, right? Because there's no point where we're able to actually stop as managed service providers, as individuals. Like, how do you stop the onslaught, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm curious, at some point we're going to have to see this.
Well, I think some important history to note is cybersecurity is one of the biggest use cases for AI. I mean,
Yeah,
like big data and cybersecurity are the two pieces of
right.
technology that AI has been applied to the most. And what we're seeing, like look at signature based antivirus versus behavioral based AI antivirus or
100%.
EDR, right? Like, you know, 10 years ago, even 6 years ago, everyone was using signature based, right? It would scan the system, it would look for virus signatures. And what happened is hackers were able to mutate the virus signatures and it
Right.
would essentially make things undetectable. So you needed this behavioral base and then AI based. And then you had, the big battle. You had like
Yeah.
Silence and CrowdStrike and
Yeah.
Sentinel One. They were kind of later and more upmarket. You had it's just so many like the EDR vendors all coming in, and they're all we got the best AI models and blah 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 blah. But I think like MSPs were the ones using that and felt that like head on the difference between like, oh well, this stuff actually works. Like we can actually protect people with this.
I agree. And that's where I think, even though we have tools and we have all these things that are coming as an attack vector, right? We have opportunities to use AI for good. And that's, I think one of the things, even like here at Hackware, we're using AI to understand, end user behavior. We're looking at ways that it can actually improve and look at trends in data. Like as an IT professional, when I look at that, I remember thinking back to like, all right, I got to send a phishing simulation training something to our people. So I'm just going to broadcast it to everyone and see who clicks it. Like that's the back in the day. Like now you have these new models and techniques, just like you have with these EDR vendors, where we're taking something old and automating it in a way that's now new and fresh. And that's where I think it's really interesting to watch how it's moving forward faster, quicker, and really allowing us to actually use the tools where instead of just being subjected to, the impact of them coming after us, right? So, oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I was just agreeing with you there, and I think like a lot of the AI can like you look at ChatGPT and these like really useful end user type like anyone like Google search for AI, right? And
Sure.
it makes the average script kiddie a little bit stronger and a little bit
Yes.
faster. So
Right.
if you've ever like gone in and fired up a Kali Linux or whatever, like installed a VM for the first time, you're like trying to figure out what commands to put in, what codes to use. You get your syntax wrong. You're using Python for the first time. Like there's a learning curve there, and unfortunately, people with no training can do some
Right.
damage because of how good the tools are. But with
Yeah.
like ChatGPT and stuff, you can say like, "Hey, write me a script that does this, or write me a tool that does this, or what program should I use to do
Yeah.
this." So you don't necessarily like you used to have to be able to follow like a guide, right? Like that was somewhat complex, and sometimes it wouldn't work and all that.
Yeah.
But now you
Yeah.
can like you have a guide and then like somebody's going to answer like basic questions around like syntax and like how
Right.
to do common things. So I think it's going to make the average person like the average script kiddie a little bit like they can do a little bit more damage,
I agree.
like
I
I
agree.
don't think that like the nation state type attacks, like there's a whole different use case for that, and that's like their own AI models and generating,
Absolutely.
like I don't really comprehend how all that's going to happen, but
Yeah.
from like a random people trying to hack things point of view, I think it makes it easier for them.
I agree. I agree. I mean, when I heard that the other, I was as ChatGPT started to take place, I've been thinking about, how do we use AI for the betterment of humanity for a long time and really, really understanding the meaningful uses for it. And we always see that there's an opportunity. And I even said that on the article with CRN. The one thing that we need to do is educate the end user on the opportunity and understanding that, just like what you're just talking about now, is everything can be used for bad. And the fact that we're running to us, and I think I just saw a stat that Chat GPT reached, as like the fastest trending, social media, thing in the world right now. And that's because it does so much for us, right? It's
Yeah.
doing what we want it to do. To your point, you can ask it anything. And it's not even the actually official version that they're coming out with next, right? So when you think about how good it is now, and the amount of data that it has access to when you ingest all these other opportunities, I think it's going to true us up. I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. I think, to your point, I think we're going to have to move faster to try to get ahead of that, to remediate what it's able to do as fast as it is for it to be able to generate bad outputs. And that's where I think we have to actually educate our customers, educate ourselves on its capabilities, and be aware of what its opportunity is. I do say this though. I will say, as much as it's changed the threat landscape, I also see it being used for far more greater good right now than it has been used for bad. But I'm sure
Hmm.
people will get tired of using it for good, and they'll be like, okay, what bad things can I do? Can I manipulate markets? Can I do other things? I mean, how can I, what's in it for me? But to your point, I think I watched you and Wes. You guys actually used Chat GPT to generate some hacks live. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was on with Scott Davis this morning. Shout out to Scott, who's on our team at QuickPass. We were putting together some Chat GPT powered hacking for the upcoming ASCII show in Newport Beach. So if
Oh,
anybody's
really?
going to be out there, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we were basically like, we were having to generate scripts. We were testing the limits, see what it could do. We basically tried to take like a common, I don't want to give it all away, but we're taking like
Yeah,
a
don't give it
common
away.
MSP scenario, and like a hacker gets like one piece of it, and like see how that hacker could use AI to like, pull on the thread and start unraveling it. But
Oh no. Well, and that's the opportunity, right? And I think that's when we think about how it's changing the threat landscape. Now we can't hide from it. To your
yeah.
point, like it's in our face right now. So like that has changed. It has brought it to our doorstep. It is sitting right there in front of us. Like you open the door and there it is, and it's like, oh, so we got to be ready for it, right? And that's where I think the opportunity is.
Yeah, I think there's a huge social engineering component too. Like, especially with ChatGPT, like
Yeah.
it can generate really well written English and actually sound like
Oh
a
yeah.
human. So I think like the obvious scamming phishing emails, like I don't know, like I think it can
We said
beat
that
those.
same thing. That was Tiffany and I, where we were kind of talking about how that could she had brought it up, and you're 100% right. When we think about, we're a cybersecurity awareness phishing company, and you think about, you can kind of see them, right? I call I always say, if you want to find the happiest place in your mailbox, it's in your junk mail, because you're always winning something. You're always but you can see through it, right? But now, if somebody got a hold of some real credentials or a real email box, and they actually were able to get in and send some legitimate emails, and they were able to digest some stuff, I agree with you, Jimmy. I think 100% we're not going to be able to tell the difference anymore. Like, no misspellings, no incorrect links, no malform links, use proper use of bit.ly links, and so when you think about how that could change things, I 100% see that coming as fast as a freight train on the rails, man. It's coming.
I know, and you know what? This is just text, like voice and video. Like that's right around the corner. I think it's gonna come a lot faster than people think it will. I mean, ChatGPT was a month to get to. Where like TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and Gmail and all these other like took way longer. Like the people are adopting this technology at an
Oh yeah.
alarmingly fast rate. Like think of how many, I mean, no secret, there's been lots of layoffs in tech right now, but like think of how many people are having their cover letters written by AI right
Oh
now.
yeah. Yep. Or anybody that's actually having their headshots massaged by AI for photos, right? Like, it's creating a whole new personas. Like, I'm with you. It's interesting. I was thinking about this. I was just a minute ago, and it was funny because when you were talking about AI maybe listening, because you buffered for a second and you repeated yourself three times in a row. So I mean, you may want to be careful about talking about AI. It might be out for you.
This is
Exactly. So the thing is, I was looking for virtual backgrounds around AI, and I was thinking to myself, there's just a matter of time before we can become virtual avatars. Like, obviously with Meta on the horizon, you see that, but like real true deep fake utilization for actual productivity,
Yep.
where I could potentially be a very smart person with the same face. I think everyone's seen like the Morgan Freeman deep fake, and you've seen the John Travolta or the, Arnold Schwarzenegger one. Those are pretty good. Like where they're taking the face of them and meshing them with the actual face and, using the voice. Think about that kind of deep fake, right? Where it's actually a person and their likeness, their video likeness. And again, for people like us that are on video a lot, there's a lot to gather, right? So our nuances, our movements, our facial features, the way we talk is all can be harvested and used against us or in those ways. So I
Yeah.
agree. I think there's something very interesting there. And it's not far off. Think about that.
I mean, celebrities are already selling the rights to like AI versions of themselves. It's
Yeah.
happening.
Right.
I think too, like from moving back, like outside of like the threat landscape, just like a overall technology, like big picture, it's going to have a major impact in the middle, and in the like people who are really like in tech, right? Like people who are really good at harnessing AI and knowing how to use it. It's going to make them super achievers, where they
Yeah.
will be 5 to 10 times more effective.
Hmm.
But people who are like mundane work, I guess you should say, or entry level work, a lot of that's going to get automated by AI.
Right.
So I think from a technology standpoint, the same sort of thing we've seen in America with the collapse of the middle class, and a big disparity between the top and the bottom. I think it's going to do that to the workforce too. I think high earners and high productivity people will double, triple, quadruple their output and possibly their compensation, especially from big tech companies, where the net overall amount of jobs that will be out there will dramatically decrease, or
Uh,
the pay for them will decrease. So you're not going to see like those good, like, solid, earn a living, buy a house. Like I think a lot of those jobs are going to disappear due to AI, and you're going to have more people with crazy amounts of money, and then a lot more people struggling, which
yeah.
I think is a major concern. And like our like we're it's been driving that way for a while, but I think it's going to get worse than anyone thinks.
I talked about that in when I did that study, and I said that artificial intelligence was hiring, and it was for those that were upskilling and trying to figure out how to harness the power of it. And I
Yeah.
100% agree with you because, there's a website that was out there at the time. It's called Will Robots Take My Job? And to your point, like if anybody was putting in like what they do as far as a job title, or like they picked like what they were doing because it had millions of job titles in there, it would give you the probability of what was going to happen if you would actually, if automation could take your job, and in what ways could it take your job. And I think that you're right. I think that it's going to be a land of the have and have nots after this is once this thing takes place. But this is the true up, right? I mean, we're gonna have to shift from what you're saying, from the blue collar jobs and those areas of focus. Like, I'm thinking about it in my own mind, like accounting. Like, think about that. Like, it's just numbers, it's
Yeah.
just algorithms. I mean, it's all about, I could inject those realities in there, and I know you can because I've seen it being done, right? Like I could
Well,
forecast the
yeah.
future with that thing. So
Say you
it
have an
will affect.
accounting firm that has 50 people working on a finite set of data, right? And then with AI over the course of a couple of years, that same amount of work can be done by 5 people, right? You're going to see
Yeah,
that. You're going to see 5 super winners, right? If you want to call it
yeah,
that, who are going to get paid a lot more than they do. And then you're going to see 45 people who don't have or 45 jobs missing. So I think that's like that accounting example is a perfect example. You can go into industry after industry after industry of office jobs and office work or anything that has to do with the computer, and you'll see you can predict similar trends. Like it's just the
oh
way
yeah,
that it's going to go. I think
I
at
agree.
least.
I don't think it's going to stop, right? I don't really think it can stop because here it's what's driving profits, right? The automation is so much less expensive than human capital. And that's the unfortunate fact, right? So, and that's the flip side of the coin. I think we're seeing that with Chat GPT. It's demonstrating the adoption when it works, the adoption ramp is more than a hockey stick. It's literally straight up, right? It's like there's no limit to the adoption rate of that thing, even for people that are trying to preserve their jobs. Like they're using that to preserve their jobs with sometimes. It's
Yeah.
like, but to your point, that's where I think the upskilling is taking place. They're like, okay, I need to go figure this thing out, and it's really good at doing it. So how
Well,
do
say
I
like let's just take some common cybersecurity attacks, like business email compromise. Like, okay,
Sure.
say someone good at AI models goes and they can ingest every email that Juan has ever sent, every single one, and
Could happen.
then an email comes in, an attacker has access to your inbox, and instead of like you work in cybersecurity, you've
Yeah.
seen the replies that you get in a business email compromise. Please get me this gift card, like Jay, right? Like the attacker instead is going reply to this in Juan's tone of voice, saying please wire me money, or please give me access to
Oh,
this, or whatever it is. Like that's real. Like that's just gonna happen like soon.
yeah,
If it's not
it'd
already.
be a one-liner that says, "Hurry up and get this done. I need it done by 3 o'clock." That's Juan's voice. Like, you know what I mean? But you're right. And here's the thing, right? So business email compromise, so many people just like overlook that and they're like, there's no chance they could get my email. And we see it all the time on our side. Like it's literally you click a phishing link that says reset your password, you give them a password. I can ingest your email that fast as soon as we log in. Like I don't even care at that moment. Like you log in, you get all that information, you dump that into a database, you have AI scan it, scrape it, and pump it right back out. Like that literally could happen within minutes.
Well, yeah, and it's gonna be like, right, create a
Yeah,
Microsoft login page, right? That is custom to this domain. Boom, boom, boom. Generate. Like,
yeah, yeah. So you can create the whole attack, the whole
yeah,
thing, like everything that goes along with that. And that's the scary part, that it's available. It's almost literally available like on the open market right now, and it's free. You can just go in like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that today.
think about like advanced social engineering. Like, I don't know if you saw like the Bing trailer on what they're coming out with.
Yeah, I've been watching. Yep.
Yeah, so they basically, for people who didn't see it, there's a Chrome extension, or an Edge extension, I should say, Microsoft Edge, right?
Edge. Yeah.
And they showed up. They pulled up a company earnings report, like a 200-page PDF of everything about the company, and said summarize this. And then the Bing AI, I think it uses ChatGPT, just went in and summarized it all in like right away. Like imagine I'm trying to hack a company and I get their internal documents, right? Or their KBs, right? Um, or I'm asking like support related questions, or I'm trying to social engineer them. Like that stuff is going to make it a lot easier for people to
Oh
do
yeah.
this.
Well, and again, back to the point, we flip the coin, right? So let's say that I get access to it, and now I have access to also your voice, right? Like again, you and I on this live stream right now, this is going to exist on the internet forever. There's no time frame in which it'll
Yeah.
expire. So like they got access to my voice, which we're kind
They
of hosed.
definitely have our voices. That's for
We're
sure.
done, bro. We're done. We're target. We know they're watching you now. They're going to be on to me. But that being said, they could take that information and then come back and say, okay, use Juan's actual voice to actually make a call to talk about this new thing that he just emailed to that potential company. It's over. All right. I mean, there's no stopping that. And now, how do you educate end users past that opportunity? Like, what is the verification process? Are we going to have like multi-factor authentication for voice now?
I don't know. I mean, we have that. We have the ID verification when you call in the help desk with QuickPass.
Yeah, well, you know
You
what
do
I'm
remember
saying
that,
though, but
yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
MSPs, yeah, for a lot of MSPs, they're like, oh, hey, like I could call and be like, this is Tony, and I need you to terminate this employee. And they're like, okay, well, verify ABCDEFG, and they know Tony generally. But if it sounded like Tony, came from Tony's phone number, MSPs would probably do it, right? It's like, and they terminate the VP, and then somebody's using the VP's identity internally to their org. I mean, there's just a number of opportunities there that we have to be thinking about, which I think
Yeah.
pushes us outside of our box.
Yeah, and then but on the flip side of it, I think there is like an upside or a positive
Sure.
to this all. Like AI has been ahead on the protection side than it has been on the attack side, which
Yeah.
maybe that'll change. I don't know, but historically it's been the other way around, and cybersecurity has been, the biggest adopters of AI like out there, for better or for worse, right? I think for better. I think for better. So hopefully, we'll be able to stay one or two steps ahead. I know there's like software that's coming out that can detect AI, and I don't
Mhm.
know how good it's going to be, but like that's where things are kind of going. Like it's
Yeah.
weird because it felt like we were talking about AI forever. And then it was like this thing that was coming, and robots and home servants and
Yeah.
computer screens, and and then all of a sudden ChatGPT came out and we're like, oh shit, this is here.
Yeah, well, let's start this, right? So in 1950, the Turing test was, and in 1955, AI was born, right? So when you think about those two dates, we've been talking about it for a long time. I mean, Kismet and Abio and Siri and Watson all have been
Yeah.
around for a long time. Tay, if everyone remembers Tay, and then Sophia. I mean, there was a number of AI models that have been released that could do different things. But you're right. As soon as ChatGPT came out, it was a completely different thing, and it was like, oh, oh, it's not the Roomba that's floating around our house anymore, right? It's not the little robot that's bouncing into things. Like this thing is like serious now, so it's much different than I think we thought.
Yeah, and then I think TikTok too. Like I don't know, like I don't know if you've got kids on TikTok or friends, or you're on your TikTok yourself, if you're listening or whatever, but like that shit is addicting. And like that is, we've seen Facebook, Instagram, like those AI models on like how the news feed works and everything. TikTok took that shit to a whole new level. Like that is insane. And then the filters and the things people can do. And then all of a sudden you have these like 10-year-old kids creating these videos that are like way better than like most marketing departments. Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is, and it's so good though that's the bad part, right? It's like, it's only going to get better, right? So if you think about it, look at that AI driven video program that everyone's injecting their photos into, like the art that it creates is
Yeah.
intense. It's good. It's not like it's bad. It's like, damn, that's good too. So what you're saying though, like the social media, and I will say I've been educating around TikTok and all those things for a long time. Because for me, I've always seen those as some sort of a data harvesting tool. Like there's no chance that I don't have a TikTok. I may be one weird person, but like, just as a security professional, I've stayed away from it just because there's so much content. Like I'll use the content that I do for good, but I
Mhm.
don't do it. I don't do it. I don't have a TikTok to do it for social media for like, that reason or whatever it's being used for. I don't have a business doing that, and my kids don't, but they do watch it. And I'm like, it's just profiling you, because it knows everything about you. But it is good, to your point.
Yeah,
It's even
like
crazy how it's actually bleeding into every other social media platform too as their primary video source.
yeah, it is. I mean, because it's so easy to create content on there. It's like it's because they build AI into the process of like everything. Like
Right.
it's crazy. It's crazy. Like it just works. Like it works
But
better than anything else I've ever used.
Jimmy, do
Yeah,
you have a TikTok?
I do. I do have a TikTok. I have like
Oh
200
wow. I would
followers or something. Not many.
have I'm gonna have to go look it up now. You got any videos?
Henry says my 3-month old already has a TikTok account. No,
Oh,
Jimmy
does he
had some
say?
on TikTok. I got some. I don't think I posted in like a year, but I jumped on the craze for a minute there.
Yeah. Well, I even when I actually created an account not long ago for some reason, and I can't remember what it was, there was a video that was linked to something and I wanted to see it. And I went and looked at it and I actually created an account for 2 seconds. And it was funny because as soon as I did, the amount of things that it decided to advertise to me on that thing was intense. Like the amount of sprawl that it had. I mean, it came at me from everywhere, obviously through cookie tracking, but it was interesting to see how much they were willing to put into getting me on that platform as a new user. So it's hard not to. I will say for those that don't have one, poor
Yeah, and by the way,
Harry.
I think I said Henry. I meant to say Harry. Apologize, Harry. My bad.
Oh, Harry's out there. Hey, Harry.
Yeah. Um.
So
So what do we do? We just turn our phones off, like throw them out? I don't know. Like what?
I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is just educating everybody. I call 2023 the year of education, and I meant that seriously when I said it in December. I think
Yeah.
this is the year that MSPs need to become more educated. I think this is part of it, right? We're doing this because we want to make sure that people know what his capability are. I think everyone that's out there is understanding that we're at a forefront and a precipice of something new and different, and we need to be aware of it. Like we got to know what this thing's doing and how it works. And I think that we need to educate our customers about it because so many of them, if you guys remember back to the day, like shadow IT was like a big thing. And we're like,
Yeah.
we're already doing command and control in the office. And, these people were starting to bring in applications under the admin layer, right? Because they were,
Yeah.
apps that you could add on, or SaaS was still like an emerging
Sign
thing.
up on the credit card, expense it, right? IT doesn't
Yeah.
even know about it.
Yeah, and this is the thing. This is the same thing. Now there's no sign up. There's no credit card. There's nothing. It's a URL, and you can go and sign up. Nobody has to know, and you can go and use this tool. And this is where I think the danger is, right? So there's a lot of SaaS
Oh
applications that
wow.
are out there.
Yeah. What if somebody's asking it like, hey, reformat this data for me? And it's like company private financial information. Like,
Yeah,
wow. Yeah.
are we monitoring those types of conversations? Like I know at the data layer, we're monitoring, cross transported data, but if I'm copying and pasting data and I inject it into a browser window and I ask it to massage this corporate data, I have now caused a data breach, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge concern. And I think that we need to be thinking about those types of things. There's, a policy in regards to data usage probably needs to be modified. I mean, that's the place where we're at right now. It's like, I don't know that any of us are thinking about that, but I was like, man, everyone's going to be taking corporate information and just being like, what do you think about this chat GPT? Like I've heard people like, oh, I'm doing corporate presentations and asking chat GPT to give me feedback on this. And I'm like, hold on a second. Did you just give it like corporate financial data information and like bit, trends? And it's like, yeah, you should see the presentations. And I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. Not.
My
What are you
God. Yeah,
doing?
like I could even see like a developer going, please anonymize this data for me.
You know what I mean? I'm like, hold on a second. And this is where I think that it's happening so fast that we're not. This is where I think the danger zone is. This is where I think the opportunity is because
Yeah.
we aren't moving fast enough to address it. We're like, oh, well, it's cool. It looks fun. Let's let everyone go and play. But like, as we're sitting here, like data is just flooding out into this thing. And it's like, oh, oops.
Yeah, and there's going to be huge implications for MSPs. Like, so you look at it like, okay, maybe an AI can come in and help solve tier one tickets, right?
Yes.
Um, Common things that come in can help find relevant KBs or whatever you're looking for faster. Like
Sure.
make your senior engineers more effective because an AI is like, hey, maybe they're talking about this, maybe we're talking about that, whatever. This solution you did 7 months ago, like maybe this is how you do it. So that whole piece is certainly interesting. I think that's going to come way faster than people think. I think people think we're like years out because a lot of it is process based, right? Like there's a lot of automation, including a lot of stuff we do. It's like process based. Like you set up rules, and then if a certain thing happens, it comes like I'm talking about like fully autonomous. Like, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But then you get security risks with it too, because then all of a sudden the AI can, reset passwords, give admin access, like that kind of stuff. Where it's like, whoa.
Well, and let's just ask this question, right? So, like, I love that everybody's using it, but how many people are even thinking about where this data resides? Like the stuff that we're asking it, the things that we're doing, and if we're injecting data into it, like, does that have? Is anyone? I mean, that's like a huge DLP opportunity, right? It's like I see the attractiveness to doing that, but like, are our customers willing to accept that there might be an AI that we don't have control over? And who knows what kind of securities around these types of tools that, do we know? Right. And
It's
I
like
think that
Dropbox, right? Like how many businesses struggled where, their CFO or whoever just like had a personal Dropbox account with like all of the company's financial information
yeah.
over the past 10 years or whatever, since
Oh yeah. They have
Dropbox
like,
and Google Drive became so easy.
yeah, the transportation of data in a constant effect a mannerism. Like it, you're right. It still happens today, right? So many people move from job to job and that Dropbox just grows every time. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to dump my email and some corporate templates in there.
Yeah.
It's like,
Except now we're all feeding it to the same AI, right? Like it
yeah,
literally
no,
says on there on like ChatGPT, like I get smarter as people make inputs and stuff. Like, and everyone's like, hey,
yeah,
here's all my private data. What's going on?
yeah, I would be interested to see on, and I'm sure they may not share that, but I'm sure I would be curious to see how much how much it grew in knowledge over that period of time. I know
Yeah.
that we can measure it based on the amount of data, but how many more decisions could it make from this day to this next day within that shorter period of time, and watch how that just probably was explosive in its growth. But yeah, I would say, that's the opportunity, I think. And that, to your point, I think as we talk about this threat landscape and how it's changed everything, it's injecting so many other conversations and thoughts around what we need to be paying attention to, because I guarantee we're not thinking about it. That's just really sexy right now. And we're not looking at all of the things that it could be potentially injecting as a reality. Like I said, with shadow IT was the same thing. I see this as a massive shadow IT. Like this is like the dark hole of shadow IT. There's no hiding from this thing. Then there's no limit to its ability. So we need to be paying real close attention to it.
Yeah. And then something else I want to like pull back to, the whole concept of, the top maybe 1 or 5% sort of being, growing way faster with AI. I think you could see the same thing with MSPs where, the big roll ups and the really big MSPs who have huge data sets to apply AI tools to, right? They'll become, I don't know though. I mean, at the end of the day, there's still the human element, which is the most important thing. And it's really hard to scale that. But like a lot of the common tier one stuff, what you'll probably see is like, the really massive 200 technicians or 25 MSPs rolled into one private equity type roll up, like
Right.
ingesting all of that data, all of the tickets they solved in a given year.
Right.
Like they're going to be able to just get things going with AI super quick. Where if somebody is new, they'll have to bring in a third party tool to do it. Or
Yeah.
if say you're a 5-person MSP or a 1-person MSP, like you're not going to have that same data set. So you could see another divide there. So
Oh, I 100% agree. And it's interesting. I've been watching this and, being an MSP myself and exiting, we were a fairly large MSP and we were always looking to synergize those scenarios where, how do I not repeat that same problem ever again? That's such a common problem. Like, let's not have that again. Like, let's just
yeah,
automate through that. So there's a lot of great products that are out there that are doing stuff like that, and I think that as we start to see, I see a number of vendors that are in this space right now that are poised to win because of things like that, where they can adjust a lot of data and make really smart decisions on the highest pain points. So there
yeah,
is the shiny bullet, right? I think that those companies that are looking at it from that lens will win faster because of the amount of information that they have. And that's where I think you see like this vacuum, because they can look at everything and say, well, I already know there's 4 million things right here that I need to do to fix this with automation. And then, looking at that, that can change my attractiveness to potential acquisition or others, right? So really interesting point there for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's changing everything, Jimmy. Not just the threat landscape,
Yes.
that's for darn sure.
I
So
just, I've said this 100 times, but like, I don't think people are ready for how fast it's going to happen. Like, it's going to be quick. AI is going to, like, all these tech companies are laying off. We're in a down economy. What happens is a bunch of people are out trying to start, like, they made a lot of money the past couple of years. They're ready to start their own business. They have the ChatGPT AI API, and they're all going to start AI companies.
mhm.
Like, like
I have
every
seen so
all
many.
those,
I've literally seen a number of AI companies spin up in the last like 30 days. Like I can't even tell you how many. Like it's just they're using data and they're using Chat GPT as their new go-to-market strategy. So you're right. Companies are making different decisions. We're there, right? We use AI internally in our product, right? It's a smart. It looks at user behavior. It looks at the best ways to actually penetrate an individual. Like it's socially engineering individual people to help them learn what not to do, right? And I think that a lot of companies that are out there or people that are looking in this down economy, now is the time because now I can just take this machine, ask it some questions, I get all this wonderful output. I got a business. I wish I had this, Jimmy. I'll be honest with you. When I first started my first company, I didn't even know how to write a business plan, right? And if I had asked it how to write a business plan around something and take it to a bank, like I would have been up and running in less than 30 days instead of like the year it took me to actually get it moving, right? But think
oh my
about
god,
that.
it's true. Oh my god, it's so true. Like, ChatGPT could get a loan better than half the people out there. God.
There it is. Not a resume. I'm not going to go get a new job. I'll go get a loan. And I'm going to have it. What's the best odds of me being approved? And then actually write me a pitch deck on top of that. We may have just come up with something.
All right. I Juan, do you have any closing thoughts here? How do we wrap this up? Like, we've been all over it. We've hit everything. Impact on technology, cybersecurity, vendors, MSPs, people.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is again, I'm going to go back to the year of education, right? I think this is our year where we actually have to stop for a second. Like, there's a lot of shiny balls that are out there, but we need to really pay attention to what's real. And what we need to be paying attention is education. I think that's probably the biggest thing is just take time to learn and understand what these new opportunities are. You know, find more, thought leadership such as this, and look at different ways from different lenses and figure out what makes the most sense for you and your business. I think that's the one thing. And then help your customers understand this stuff, man. Like
Yeah.
that's, they don't get it. Like everyone's just running around. Like I ask this question all the time, Jimmy, on stage. Does anyone here know how to actually get on the internet? And if you can tell me the right way, raise your hand. There's no real right way, right? And that's the beauty of it. Even with this now we have a new
Yeah.
injected reality, and it's like, now what? Well,
Think
we need
about
to.
how cool or like how much of a thought leader position to if you sent an email to all of your customers and said guidelines for uh, uh, interacting with ChatGPT. Please do not put any company data in there, anything like that. Like, people are like, oh wow, these this Juan's MSP really knows what's going on here. Like,
Yeah, well,
think how we
I'm,
have
I'm,
them.
I tell you what, MSPs need to be thinking like that, and that's for sure. And so that's why I say learn more about it, and then help your customers learn more and educate them about it. I think that's the one big takeaway. Jimmy, what's your thoughts on our way out of here, buddy?
I think just buckle up, like keep an open mind. Uh, it feels like Google search for the first time. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, I think that's what it is, and the implications are going to be massive. So just get ready. It's going to come faster than people think.
I know, and I love that jacket too. By the way, I'm gonna have to figure out how to get one of those. That's
Thank
a
you. Yeah, yeah. This is a me walking to the REI, grabbing one off the rack, and then going over to the garment district and, handing an email on a file and getting it done real quick.
I like it. I'm gonna have to get one.
Benefits of living in New York City. You can make stuff like that happen real fast.
Well, I appreciate you, man, for having me. This has been spectacular. And for everyone that joined us, thanks for everything out there. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for hosting too.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah. All right.
Till the next time.